All right, Blake. Hey, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. Excited for the conversation.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. I'm excited as well.
So Blake, let's start. And what I really want to do is go back to the beginnings, at least, to give the opportunity to tell the story of GenTeal and the origins really of this brand. Um, so where did the idea come from? I'm curious. Was this something you knew you always wanted to do and get into as the apparel industry, or just where was this idea born from?
Yeah, actually, my business partner Bryce Noonan, who's a fully tenured biology professor at Ole Miss, he had the original concept for the idea, and we met through a mutual friend, actually in the Grove. We're based here in Oxford, Mississippi, before an Ole Miss football game. And I was getting my MBA at Ole Miss at the time, and he, I guess, thought that maybe I had some sort of financial literacy, which I probably didn't know. I didn't know even a tenth of what I know now. But growing up, as Bryce explained, kind of what he was thinking, I saw a lot of similarities. Right, I like to hunt, I like to fish, I like to be outside, and my mom used to buy me brands when I was growing up that didn't necessarily fit that mold. So it's like, yeah, it sounds like there's a niche there, and it sounds like a fun opportunity. So we started meeting at a local bar, and eventually we had enough beers to convince ourselves that this was going to be a good idea, and just kind of plowed forward. And we kind of base it off of, okay, we're gonna be different through our fabrics, through our patterns, and through our branding. What you see outwardly as you look at a brand. I think a lot of people now, they go online, they see the brand, and they immediately go to social media to see, well, what does that brand stand for? What do they represent?
Mm-hmm.
And that was really the goal of getting going.
Yeah. So what specifically, what you just said there, what do you hope people are seeing, or, at least back then, even how it all started, what do you hope people are seeing and associate with, like, the identity of the brand? Like, what is it?
We hope that they see the premium menswear line for the avid outdoorsman, right? And we're still, we're here we are, we're 7 years in, and we're still getting there, right? We're still trying to get to that level where we want to be. But that's what we want our clothing and our imagery and our marketing to communicate.
Okay. So let's backtrack for a second. Had Bryce not approached you with this opportunity, what would you be doing right now?
That's a great question, because in between undergrad and grad school, I did pharmaceutical sales. I was not good at it. I didn't like buying people lunch, so they'd talk to me for 5 minutes. So I went back to grad school to get my MBA because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And luckily, Bryce caught me early on, early first semester in the MBA program, to where it's like, okay, yeah, I want to start something, right? Just those initial conversations. It's something that I'd never thought about, starting my own business. I might, and fortunately, as we got started, before we could pay ourselves, I got offered the opportunity to teach in the business school at Ole Miss. And so if I had not gotten that opportunity, I might have been, bartending my way. So I had a flexible schedule and could work on growing our business, growing GenTeal.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of this was just timing, right? And maybe at this point in your life, like, did you know that there was some entrepreneurial spirit in there? Or was it really Bryce kind of opened the door to that in these early conversations? And really quickly, it sounds like there was some excitement around, like, man, we can go build something brand new, and, like, this could be really cool.
Yeah, for me, I'm very fortunate that I grew up around people that just worked really hard and kind of created their own opportunities, right? My grandparents own a farm, and farming is farming. It's hard work, and we kind of refer to ourselves as farmers sometimes, farmers of clothes, kind of. But I felt like I realized that entrepreneurial spirit within me when Bryce approached me with this idea, and it kind of opened my eyes to the to going out and creating something on your own. But to your point, I do think that in every entrepreneurial story, there is a certain degree of luck, or being in the right place at the right time. And I think that we were in the right place at the right time and caught lightning in a bottle. If it had been a year or two later, we would have been running into COVID, and we probably would have never gotten started.
Yeah. So let's go again back to these origins. What did you know about the apparel industry? right? So
Zero, nothing.
you had been in pharmaceutical sales or whatever, you're an MBA student, and you get pitched this idea, but it sounds like, and these are, I don't know if these are the right words, but these are coming to mind. It's almost like, maybe naive
Oh,
to
absolutely.
truly like what you were stepping into. So you didn't know anything about the market.
Nothing. And I would tell you, to your point about being naive, if anybody knew how hard it was to get to where we were now, they'd never start an apparel company, right?
Yeah.
You have to be kind of naive to the challenges and the struggles, the cash flows and things of that nature. So I knew nothing. From the time Bryce and I met until we sold our first shirt, it was 2 years. So what I call that is, I call that 2 years of getting our masters in the apparel industry, learning the high level overview. And since then, we're still getting our PhD, right? We're learning something new every day.
So those early stages though, like what were you really, understanding? And like that crash course in just being a part of this industry, what were some of the key lessons early on?
Fabrics, sourcing. Okay, yeah, you want to make something. Can we make it domestically? We went down that road, didn't work. How do we sell it? We actually used a tax. My grandparents have owned several different businesses outside of the farm, and we actually used one of their tax IDs to go to an apparel show and act as buyers so we could get information from the brands. I mean, we met with all sorts of brands, you name them, and we got information. They gave us lookbooks, they gave us pricing. So now, we never thought about pricing. How do we wholesale price? How do we retail price? We went through every trick in the book. We bought, and I can't believe how much we paid for it at the time. All import data in the US is public record. You just have to pay for it. And so we bought import data and did database searches on brands who we thought made high quality garments, because we couldn't afford to go over there at the time. So we let these other brands kind of do the due diligence for us through this import data. And it was kind of a backwards way of finding where they were getting their garments from.
Yeah, but it sounds like there was a real, again, the entrepreneurial spirit was there. There was a real resourcefulness about it. Like we might not be taking the conventional route. We don't know what we don't know, but we're just figuring it out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that it was a lot of work, and it takes what it takes. You got to figure out, how do we get at the time, we were just trying to figure out how can we sell a shirt. And that is really the entrepreneurial spirit is you
Yeah.
just got to figure it out.
Right. When did you realize though, just how like competitive that industry is and the market that you were stepping into? What was that like?
When we went to our very first apparel market, where retailers from all over the country, they come into these markets and they're buying brands a season ahead. I realized how competitive it was. If you go into, the way I describe it, if you go into a gas station and that gas station has an empty shelf where there should be drinks or candy bars, well, that gas station's probably not doing very well. Right. If you go into a retail store and they've got a lot of empty space, that's usually not a good sign. Everything's dollars per square foot. They got to fill those stores and sell it down and create an ROI on that square footage that they have in their store. And I never realized that until we got there. And it's, well, how different are you really? I get this from this person or that person.
So what was it like? Because it sounds like the idea, and from the get-go, you had a vision
Mhm.
and for where you could carve out this little niche for the brand. What was it like though to close the gap between, this thing doesn't exist at all
Mhm.
to making it come to life? And what was that process? Because I have to assume, again, I mean, even as you're describing it, like I'm sure there were some challenges, there was some failure, some lessons learned along the way. So just talk us through that, because it's one thing to have a great idea, but now it's like, hey, actually you got to put it into practice. And like you said, even just down to the dollars and cents, the materials and so on. I mean, there's so much involved. So how accurate do you think, especially when you started, from where the idea and the vision really was to what was actually put on shelves or in stores? Is it exactly what you wanted?
Yeah, I think that we learned that our first few runs, it wasn't up to our standards, right? We didn't hit that quality standard that we were striving for. We didn't hit that branding standard that we were striving for. So I think to your point, it was the first 2 years was kind of trial and error. What are we doing? And then I think after really about a year and a half in, that's when we really hit it. It felt good. I think we're really on to something. The retail stores are now, they're calling us, they're asking for more product. They're seeking out their brand, or retail stores seeking us out at these shows. Right. Well, then that presented a whole new problem, which is how do we buy enough shirts to supply all this new business that we have? Because our cash flow cycle is horrific. Right. So we take purchase orders, and then we have to buy product. And then it usually takes 5 to 6 months for that product to get to us. Then we ship it to our retailers, and then they have 30 days to pay us. Unfortunately, most of them don't pay us in 30 days. So your cash is out for, 7 months. And, that's where I learned, and I hated finance classes in college, but I learned a lot because you're living it and it's real. And then, right place, right time. I was at an event for the Ole Miss Business School and met a couple, and that ended up being our first angel investors that helped us get through that tough time of, we have a great product and we're experiencing this growth, but I can't buy enough to support it.
Yeah. So I'm hearing again, just a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. What were some of the other characteristics you think you really had to lean on and learn maybe during the early stages?
Yeah, so many. I mean, when you think about starting a business, you have to know a little bit about a lot of different aspects, and marketing, right? Or just or how to survive the roadblocks, right? You try something and then it doesn't work. And then maybe you try a different route and it doesn't work again, right? So that determination was something that you really have to pull. And I don't think you see that until you're in it, in the trenches.
Mhm.
I saw Nick Saban say one time that people are motivated by fear, survival, or they want to be the best. And I think it's a very true statement. In entrepreneurs, you experience all three of those aspects, maybe on a daily basis, especially as you're getting started.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there a point that you can recall in the early days where you felt like, man, I don't know if this is going to work, or like maybe we should just scrap this, where you really felt like close to giving up?
I can't ever think of a time where I really said I want to quit.
Mhm.
Right. I think, but I do remember some really incredibly stressful times where, man, we've got to find some money to pay our manufacturers so we can get these products on the boat. And it's like, man, it just, you feel helpless, right? You don't have enough collateral for your bank to give you a loan. You're waiting on your retailers to pay you. And it's just, you got to figure it out. And I wouldn't say that that's just one time. I've felt that several times, just that desperation of, okay, how are we going to sit down and to be able to clear your mind and think through a problem when it's kind of desperation time is challenging. Another reason why, we created the relationship with you guys, right? Because as we've grown, some of those desperate times are more intense because now you're talking
Yeah.
about a lot of money.
Right. So let's, again, like in these early stages when there was this desperation, I'm sure stress, sometimes feeling overwhelmed. How were you personally navigating that?
I think I've evolved a lot over time because I used to have this initial just fly off the handle reaction, right? Like, it's, the world's ending kind of thing. And now that we've been through some of those moments, some of those instances, as many times as we have, now it's like, okay, I got to take a deep breath and step away and really think. Right. But in addition to that, it's the people that you surround yourself with that can help you make those decisions. So we have formed a good team of people who initially came in and it's like, hey, we need you to do a lot of different things. But fortunately, as we've grown, everybody's kind of fallen into their role of what they enjoy doing or what maybe the original expertise was. And that gives me the comfort level that, hey, I don't have, when it was just Bryce and myself, it's just two of us making decisions, right? But as we form this team, it's helped us get to where we are now because it helps us process decisions and get somebody else in the room that maybe is an expert in that area.
Yeah. So, and that's exactly what I wanted to go to here at some point, was just the role of getting some good people around you, especially, again, I know we're focused here on sort of the startup, right? The beginnings of the brand and the company. So who were some of those key people that you're leaning on? Clearly the relationship between you and Bryce was important, like being on the same page, communicating, all those things. But as that team and let's say the inner circle started to grow, um, who were some of those key people? What did you lean on them for? And I know you described like how the roles sort of settled over time, but just talk a little bit more about, I mean, were there mentors that you were seeking advice from? Like, what did this look like?
Absolutely. I think that one thing I realized quickly is I enjoy being coached. I like someone that has experience telling me, okay, hey, this is what I do, or just thinking through that process. In my opinion, now I think it's kind of fun to walk through a process and think of different scenarios. But to answer your question, Kim Campbell was the first person that came in and really, he'd lived it, he'd done it, he had experience. So we met Kim because we're in a college town and we were having trouble getting people to just fill orders. I mean, something that sounds basic, but that's like your defense. I mean, you can go out and sell, but if you don't have somebody packing the boxes to ship, then it doesn't do you any good. And so I went to our economic development people and I said, look, I just need a full-time employee to just, all they do is fill orders, and they gave me Kim's resume and I was like, look, you guys missed the mark. This guy doesn't want to work for us. And Kim owned a 3PL in Northwest Arkansas. I think him and his wife moved to Fayetteville, Rogers area in like 92. And that area has exploded and his business exploded. He was warehousing for Walmart, Dollar General, you name it. So he is really the operations guru. He retired and did some consulting even with other apparel companies. But he came in and identified several opportunities. I mean, he acknowledged, hey, you guys have done some things really well, because he goes, I've seen some nightmares. But he identified opportunities for us to grow. And then after that, it was Lauren who came in. We needed some customer service help, and now Lauren is our marketing director. And then after that, it was Bob Forster, who was really the pioneer sales rep. So we just hired people that had the expertise and were willing to work hard.
Yeah. What would you really, when you go back, what do you point to as sort of like the takeoff moment, or the experience that really you felt like this set us on a whole new trajectory, almost like, hey, we've made it, we've arrived. And as you noted, like that comes now with a whole new set of challenges. But was there one particular event or moment when it was like, boom, we're here, we've arrived?
We've done very well. I still don't feel like, hey, we are here. We are talked about in some of those top tier brands, but I do remember when we really started to go that direction. And it was when I felt like we had a good team. Our offense, our sales team was really good, but operationally we were solid. And the one thing we were missing was the funding to help us get to that next level. So I could just unleash the sales team. Hey, go after it. Right. And we were able to get some investment and some solid, backing from a commercial bank. That's when we really started rolling. That was really, it's funny because it was 2019, and then all of a sudden COVID hits. It's like it's crashing to a halt. But we took that COVID time to reevaluate and say, how can we come out of this with some growth opportunities? Everybody's down. We hope that other people are freaking out while we can kind of readjust, right?
Okay. So I guess you're taking us into, now let's say almost like phase two. So we hit COVID, but like you just said, okay, it's time to reevaluate, readjust. What did you really learn during that process? How did the brand come out of COVID better off?
Yeah, I think we reevaluated our sales channels. We were sitting here and we had all this inventory, but our retail stores were closed, right? So what can we do with these shirts that is going to help us, right? Well, the golf business was on fire at the time, and we never really thought of ourselves as a golf brand, but those pro shops were all open and they couldn't get enough stuff. So we launched into the golf business. We bought an embroidery machine. We got some outside consulting to help us get into that market. And then we even looked further. It's like, okay, well, we've got some Navy shirts, we've got some red shirts, maybe collegiate licensing, right? Why don't we try that? It's tough. As a brand, you don't want to, brands that are all things to all people usually don't work out, right? So you don't want to step too far outside of your lane, but we applied for some collegiate licenses, and that business took off, right? It wasn't immediate because people couldn't go to games, but it was just an extra sales channel that we could move product that was collecting dust on the shelves, or would have been collecting dust had we not gone out and looked down those different avenues.
Yeah, again, it just sounds like resourcefulness, the entrepreneurial spirit that we've already discussed, just some creative, solution oriented thinking.
Mhm.
Um, okay, what I'm curious, do you have any of those like original samples, like the first shirts off the line? Do they exist?
We do. We've talked about getting them kind of framed like you see autographed jerseys, because
Yeah.
there's some horrible stuff. Like there was one that our manufacturer didn't understand how big we wanted our logo, so we wanted it 3 centimeters wide by 2 centimeters tall. Well, they made it 3 inches wide by 2 inches tall, and so we do have some of those original samples. There are a few things that were so bad that I think that we just didn't even want to remember them. It's like let's put that in the past.
That's what I was curious is like that's got to be that's got to go on the wall, right? Just as a reminder
Oh
of
yeah.
like some humble beginnings and hey, let's not get too big for our britches here. Like, look at how far we've come.
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's a good reminder, it's a good way to showcase, because our team has grown, and I think everybody, is enjoying what they're doing, but a lot of them weren't here in those early beginnings. It was really tough, and we were learning what we needed to do. And so that those samples, to your point, they do kind of serve as a reminder. Now we show them to our coworkers now as kind of a joke, like, man, look at what this looks like, and look at what it used to be.
Mhm.
But it is a good reminder, reflection point to think about how far we've come.
Yeah. What's it like, Blake, to put something out into the stores, or you go to these shows and, to a degree, like that's a pretty vulnerable space to be in, right? Because your product, your vision is being judged. So what is that
Absolutely.
like? And I have to imagine, I mean, obviously there's been plenty of, positive judgment, people love it, and that's why it flies off the shelves and you guys have grown like you have, but there's probably been some times where you get some negative feedback or you get
Oh
some
yeah.
faces like, what, how do you handle that?
It's funny because I remember when we first started shipping our first round of polos out to retail stores, and I was like, just please, people love these. Please like them so we can get this thing rolling. And now, I mean, I would tell you what we've learned is just because I like something does not mean the general public likes it, right? Or the retailers will like it. But all of it is constructive criticism. It's, hey, this is really good. Why don't you guys stick to this? Or hey, why did you even dip into this product category? And you have to kind of sort through that. I mean, Henry Ford said one time, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? So in apparel, you have to be creative,
Mhm.
but it's tough because you can get a little out of bounds sometime with that creativity. But to your point, it's nerve wracking. I mean,
Yeah.
we go to these apparel shows and we're showing somebody a line for the first time. You're always a little anxious to hear what that feedback is. You have these samples a month ahead of time. It's like, all right, I want to get here. I want to hear what they want to say.
Yeah, there's a level of humility involved in that for sure. Again, like I said, I mean, the vulnerability, you're sort of exposed in that space now. Like, all right, our team thinks this is pretty good, but our team isn't the one who needs to buy it and put it into stores.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
what I tell our sourcing and design team is, hey, there's a lot of pressure on us, guys. We've delivered. Now every season we have to feel that, hey, last season was successful. So, the retailers, they make money from selling our products. And they're a teammate just as much as we are to them. So we are truly obligated to give them our best effort in terms of our product output.
Yeah. How about this? And then we'll shift gears a little bit. Just over the lifespan now of the business and how the brand has grown, what's just one of the cooler moments or things that you've got to do or experience as a result of building this brand? And it's really taken off. And I know you said, hey, maybe we aren't all the way where we want to be, but just give us some insight into like something that you kind of pinch yourself or you look around, you're like, man, I never thought that an apparel company would take me here. You got any of those?
Oh man, so many, so many. I mean, we've created a really cool relationship with a lot of different athletic departments, particular our own here in Oxford at Ole Miss. It's we've given, our athletic director and some of the coaches some shirts, and to see them out wearing it, and then people asking, hey, where'd you get that? I mean, that's really, and I love sports, I love athletics. I love college athletics. So, to be in the room with some of those people just because, we gave them a shirt or two, and what we get at the events that our team gets invited to is phenomenal. But outside of that, it's the people. I mean, if I had to drill it down just overall, what I'm proud of, it's the retailers that we work with, the people that are on our team. I mean, sometimes I kind of think back, it's like, we started this in a storage unit, and now we have, 20 something people working really, really hard to build this dream that we had initially. And that's cool. And it's at all different levels, from our team on the back end operationally to outward to our retailers. And I've made some really, really close friends along the way, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Let's shift gears. Let's fast forward a little bit. The brand comes out of COVID. As you said, it sounds like you reevaluated, you adjusted, you found and tapped into different markets and so on. But now here we are in 2024, and give our listeners some insight. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, mid-January, Martin Luther King Day.
It was.
Okay. Okay. Talk us through this particular event and some adversity that you guys have been facing here the last couple of months.
Yeah, this is I mean, it's been certainly one of the most mentally taxing times that I've experienced. But yeah, on January 15th, Kim gets a call, Kim Campbell, who I told you about earlier. He gets a call that our sprinkler line's going off. And he's on our security system. So they call him and, hey, your sprinkler line's going off. And, automatically he thinks there's a fire. Right. Well, fortunately, probably I was at home sick with food poisoning. I mean, just awfully ill. And he'd reached out to my girlfriend, and then he finally gets a hold of me. He said, hey, I've got some pretty catastrophic news. The roof has collapsed. And it was just like, it just brings you to this halt all of a sudden. Of course everybody's initial reaction is you're joking, right? But knowing Kim, I could tell in his voice, he was serious. And it just, your life is just upside down, right? And the fact that he told me that the sprinkler line had gone off, and hey, the roof on our brand new 30,000 square foot warehouse, we just moved in August of 23, has collapsed. The sprinkler line was, in fact, the sprinkler line was still running when he called me, because the emergency response team was evaluating, okay, we know there's not a fire, we know there's nobody in the building. Is it safe for us to go in and turn that off? And, when they finally did, it probably ran for 45 minutes, but you gotta, you understand that you have 30,000 square feet of clothes and it's just raining on them, it's unsalvageable. Right. And so that launched us into what I would tell you has been the most mentally taxing month and a half since we started the business.
Yeah. Which is crazy to hear, considering you just described the challenges of even just getting up and going. So again, just to clarify too, because this is important. Brand new building, you just said, been in there 6 months essentially. Not just your warehouse, but also your office space, correct?
Yeah. So it actually, the office space, they were on two different sprinkler lines. So the office space kind of survived. I mean,
Okay.
it wasn't as bad. But in the grand scheme of things, that the office space was very insignificant compared to all of our inventory. This is our bloodline, right? The thing that we use to generate income to pay all of our people is just, and we can't get it out. The building was condemned. We couldn't go in. The insurance companies were even arguing about who could go in, or if anybody could go in, which has launched us into what has turned into almost a 8-week process now, 7-8 week process.
Yeah. So talk more about the impact of that. I know you just mentioned this is our bloodline. This is how we pay everything, even the salary of our people, but expand on that more, because at an apparel company, your product, the apparel, cannot go out to, our retailers and so on. What is really even the long-term impact of that? I get some of the short-term, but expand on that some.
I think I was kind of explaining earlier about our cash flow cycle and how long it takes for us to actually get garments in. We want to make a high quality product. Therefore, the production cycle takes a little bit longer. We source fabric separate from where it's cut and sewn. We design our own patterns. So fortunately, we had not received most of our spring inventory. So this happened on January 15th. We were looking for spring inventory to come in at the end of January, but we have a lot of great carryover products. Our pant business is phenomenal. And that's just an item where retailers, they buy it in bulk once, and then they call you once a week. Hey, I need 2 more 32s. I need 4 more 32s in these colors. Well, all that was trapped in the warehouse. The collegiate business that we created, those basic colors, we had just heavily invested in that at the end of 2023, and we can't get to it. Right. We were geared up, ready for baseball season. Most of our licensees are SEC schools. They get fired up about college baseball, and here we can't get to it. And so now you think about yourselves, but then you think about the retailers. Okay, well, the retailer has to make a decision. They have to fill that shelf space. Like I said, that's their lifeline, right? They can't just have empty shelves. So now it's like, okay, we're back to square one. You think we have to refight for some of that shelf space that we had in those retail stores. The emotions are overwhelming, right? I mean, of course, obviously the building was very new, right? So you want to start pointing fingers, right? You want to call a lawyer, you want to sue everybody, but that's not what's best for the team. Your obligation is, hey, I gotta take care of my people. Right. Whether it be our people on the back end or on the front end with the retailers.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's what I'm curious to hear more about is just, all right, from the initial, whatever that initial reaction was to what ended up becoming the response, I would say. How did it shift? How did you end up framing this for yourself, for the team, so that you guys could, I guess, make the most of it? Because it is what it is, right? It's one of these things like, hey, it's not like we planned for this, right? This is out of our control. So it doesn't matter now that it happened. Now it matters, like, what are we going to do about it? And so walk us through some of that.
Yeah. The first thing I think you just got to think, okay, well, what do I know? What do we know about what we've done and how to move forward? We hit COVID. What did we do then? Right. Well, we thought about how can we get rid of this inventory? Well, now we don't have any. Right. So what we kind of turned to, or what we did turn to, is, look, guys, we have a great insurance policy. We're covered. Right. But how did we get to this point? And how many mistakes did we make along the way? And now we get a fresh start. How many companies can say at year 7, you have a catastrophic event happen and you get a fresh start? I mean, you have to obviously put a spin on it, right? But how many companies at year 7 get a completely fresh start? And that's how we've spun it with the team. It's hey, look, we've learned all these things. We've made a ton of mistakes. We failed in a lot of areas, but now we really get this do-over. And what are we going to do with that opportunity? And how do we handle that? There's obviously some nuances there where we're all working remote. That's why I'm not in an office right now. We're all working remote. And how do we create those lines of communication? Right. We were fortunate, Cory, to have you come speak to the team to build on some things right before all of this happened. It might've been January 4th or 5th. I can't remember, but yeah, and then this happens. And then, we circle back up with you to talk about communication. Guys, we can't let our business slow down. We got to figure out the stuff on the back end, right? But we got to keep moving forward. We're going to grow. We're going to come back from this and we're going to be better than ever. And that's the approach we've taken and tried to instill that with the team.
Yeah, no. And again, it's like, man, what options do you have? Right. You either throw your hands up and play the, woe is me card, or you say, hey, like, let's make the most of it. It happened. It sucks. We didn't draw it up this way, but it is what it is. And if anything, like you said, this gives us an opportunity to look inward again, just like you did during COVID, and say, hey, how do we get better?
Yep.
Right. Because the reality is we do have a clean slate. We're a little bit of a blank page right now. And this gives us the opportunity, because I can only imagine in that industry, and as you describe it, like, everything is so fast moving all the time. Like, when do you ever have time to slow down and go, hey, let's take a look at our processes and see if they can get any better? Like, you can't do that, right? You just got to go.
You can, unless you have something completely unexpected to happen to you, like COVID, or like your roof falls down, right? And so, we just tried to surround ourselves with experts. I relied a lot on our board of advisors, relied a lot on advice from, insurance consultants and lawyers, but then tried to drill down to, okay, guys, let's think about this. Now that we have a fresh start, we're going to get all new products. What do we want to do with this opportunity? Let's think about, okay, what have we done wrong in the past? Then now we can kind of shift course and correct. And I think every department has kind of taken that to heart that, like, for example, we had just gone through this big re-merchandising, and it was a huge haul for our sourcing and design team to re-merchandise, new tags, new labels, something that just kind of elevated the line, made it look a little richer. And I was kind of concerned because we're going to have mixed inventory. Some of it was going to have the new tags and some of it wasn't. Well, hey, now we get this opportunity. Now let's push it out there. We're not trying to sell off this other inventory. We're trying to push forward with this new inventory with the new tags and labels. Just small things like that that most people wouldn't think about.
Yeah. No, but that's really cool. And again, I know, my gut is as long as you stick to that and your team buys into it, you will be better off in the long run, right? In the short term, again, it's going to be, are there some challenges, and certainly will be an uphill battle, but long term, I think you'll see the fruits of that. So let's start pushing to a close here so I can get you out of here. But I'm curious, just what else would you want our listeners to know about GenTeal? This is, you got the platform, man, put your selling hat on, and what else do they need to know?
We've really, immersed ourselves in the quality, the fabrics, unique patterns, right? It's something different. We found that our retail, we sell to high-end menswear stores, to stores that sell hunting goods, like Sitka and brands like that. And what we found that we line up really well next to those. You're not going to get anything quality-wise you'd have to question. It is going to be unique. We offer great customer service. We put bamboo hangers in every e-com order, which is something a little bit different, and they've got our logo on. You see it. Unfortunately, we don't have any right now, but we're working on getting some back in with the roof collapse. But no, I think that you're getting something that is unique and thoughtful, in each shirt.
Yeah. All right. Final question. I can't believe I didn't ask this to begin with. The name, the logo.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with them?
So when Bryce and I started, we wanted something refined, right? But obviously, refined isn't a good name. We wanted something, that felt a little more outdoorsy, but, was a little bit elevated, even more than like an Orvis garment, for example. And, Bryce thought of a blue wing teal, and how, it kind of flies elegantly, just darts across the sky. And, he thought teal, and then GenTeal is a synonym of refined. So we put a spin on the name. GenTeal is typically spelled GenTeel, but a blue wing teal is TEAL. So we put a little different spin on the name. And I think when you connect those dots, it really resonates with a lot of people.
Really cool stuff, man. Hey, I want to thank you for your time. It's really cool to hear just the beginnings of the company, everything you had to go to, some of the characteristics you had to lean on throughout, and then even more recently, how you guys have handled some adversity and put a spin on it to make the most of it. So again, thank you so much for the time, Blake. It's been cool to get to know you and get to know the team. And I have no doubt, big things for the brand here in the future. So appreciate you, man.
No, thank you. Likewise, I've really enjoyed the opportunity to work with AMPLOS. So looking forward to extending that.
Thanks, man.